Old.
Right. 923. Sorry, Senator Moylan. I don't know if you ever got bumped back for a calf napping, but
Yeah, no, but sad story, but true, and I think it's important, and I'm glad he's using social media and your network here to reach out to the public. Yeah, we got cow wrestlers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think in the old cowboy days, you would have been, strung up if you took somebody's cow or horse. So,
and even pre-COVID, you were holding a whole bunch of town hall meetings on crime.
right.
Remember?
yeah.
Seems so long ago.
But I bet no one ever said they had a cow stolen.
No, not at all. But I do hope Mr. St. Nicholas does find his cow.
Right.
Yeah.
But it kind of can segue into cow hustlers or rustlers to getting into local politics, like one of your
Wild West.
It's like a rodeo.
Yeah. That's right. And Nestor was really good. I was able to hear him, and he was a good narrator of kind of what things are going on. And it kind of started with the budget, the projection from Guadalupe for FY21, and that's at a 1.05, almost 06 $1 billion.
$1 billion!
You have to say it like that,
You
Senator.
gotta say it like a billion. You gotta own that with a B.
That's right, like $1 billion.
Yeah, there we go. There's some line.
And that's pre-COVID, as was explained. But the budget process, though, it starts with the submittal of the budget plan, and why that is because it's necessary for us to see where Guadalupe wants to allocate the resources and what's the priority. And then we take it from there, we formulate and adopt and execute, and at the end, the following year, we audit to make sure everything is done properly. But obviously, we have a faulty budget. We do hear from Guadalupe that they have bright outlooks. Things can be okay. We don't know. But they're not. The bottom line is they're not resubmitting their budget. So that's where the legislature is, and we'll have to address that. Like we've been addressing some of our measures during the last week and during this week as well. Nestor also commented on one of the bills, 366, which is actually the third measure introduced for the same purpose that did not have a public hearing. And actually, I have to recuse myself from voting in that due to my relationship with the insurance businesses as well. But it's up to it's on the third reading file, so it's going to come up to a vote here. If I look at it and what we saw from the time that first measure was introduced as a different bill number and then withdrew, and then the second measure was introduced, then withdrew, until the third one, within a week and a half, is now moved on to the voting file. The only thing I see changed now is, and this bill gives, of course, the government employees choice in medical insurance, government employees. But the only thing I saw change in the week and a half is the amount of people from 12,000 to 13,000 to 14,000 who are the private employees that were affected by COVID that probably don't have health insurance that are applying for PUA. So that's where that one is. But it's moving forward. And so are some other
What
measures.
about this hate crime bill you have,
Sure.
Senator?
Sure. Yeah, we had that situation in Minnesota where the unfortunate death of George Floyd, and it's a hate crime, and that got me looking into what are our hate crimes on Guam, and only to discover we don't have any hate laws. And Department of Justice recognizes that also, that there's 8 states and territories that with no existing mandates or requirements to keep statistics on hate crimes on Guam for us. So we introduced Bill 365, and which basically increases fines and sentencing for bias-motivated crimes. Crimes associated either with race, gender identity, or political ideas, and that it takes civil actions against the perpetrators, and if the perpetrator is a minor, it holds the parents responsible too. But interesting enough, this wasn't the first time on Guam that this type of measure was introduced. We followed suit from Senator Tony Atta, who introduced a hate crime bill back in 2014, 6 years ago, on the 36th Guam legislature. And just like former Senator Atta, when he introduced it, he was minority as a Republican Party, and just like I am today, I'm minority in Republican Party. And it's important, though. I believe that, why did the Democrats block it then? And I'm hoping now with social media and more education, maybe we can move forward on this and they don't block it again this time. But the federal government does have hate crimes and been in the books for quite some time. And they're going to address the major issues, right? If the federal crime on hate is taking place on Guam, they're going to step in. But local laws are most important as well, for things that the federal government is going to say, hey, you, Guam, take care of that locally. Vandalism, robbery, arson, things like so forth, right? These types of crimes that are biasly motivated. Then that's why local laws are important. I don't think I'm jumping on a bandwagon here. I think it's just something that...
We didn't even see you at the Black Lives... Were you at the Black Lives Matter protest center?
I actually walked through. I wanted to see what the people were discussing. I wanted to hear it. I wanted to be boots on the ground. I wanted to see what their point was. And
which one did you go to?
Adeloops. I'm sorry, not Adeloops.
ITC?
Aganyaloop.
Aganyaloop, all right.
Aganyaloop. And that was extremely packed.
Right.
And so got to talk to a few people and listen to what they had to say, which motivated me to look into, do we have hate crime laws on Guam? And we don't. Should we? Certainly. And why not? And why block such a measure? So we'll see how that goes. But with my success with my amendment trying to get over across yesterday, that didn't work out too well either. I got kind of a flip-flop situation when just trying to help small businesses here, and increasing the DeSantis amendment from the original, from the bill proposed, 323, from 250,000 to 500,000. So the companies, they still pay taxes, but they're only going to pay 3%, not the total 5%. So there's a discount of 2%. So that was my amendment, and initially it passed at an 8-7 vote. At 20 minutes later, the majority decided they got the win to have a revote. How do you have a revote? you pass the vote.
They got the call.
Yeah, Senator. I did that when I used to play kickball. It's called DC Don't Count. Don't count. Read. Yeah. Okay.
Redo until.
So what do you think? Right. What do you think happened there? Did they get the call from Adeloop or something?
I'm sure something got plugged into their ears, and it was loud enough for them to listen. And when the revote came across, the motion failed, or the bill failed, the amendment failed, to a 6-9. And why? I mean, we flip-flop. Is that going to be our standard? We're going to keep on flip-flopping until we get the answer we want? Just keep on. We're revoting.
Who called for the revote?
It was come from the back room. Possibly the author of the bill. I think it's possible.
Senator San Augustine.
Right. That's possible. Yes. Yeah. So that's
maybe you should take these guys out to lunch or something, man. Have you ever thought about that? I mean,
it's unfortunate that politics plays in this manner.
But Senator, politics, it's the legislature. You guys are political. We're supposed to have politics. You know what I mean?
Well, yes. But we also have to do what's right for the small businesses. They're the ones that need to come back strong. They're the ones that are going to pay the BBT and hire the employees, which is the biggest tax collection for the government of Guam. We can rely on this federal money. That's great. But did we open up the small businesses? Did we get people reemployed? Are we looking at FY21's new budget? Maybe if we're going to take the legislature out to lunch, the senators out to lunch, it's going to be brown bag, because money's going to be really tight.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, at some point, the politics has to stop, and the people have to start mattering.
Ooh.
Yes.
Right.
One thing I wanted to go back into, because I recall you were the one, I think, on during the oversight hearing You raised the issue about the salaries over at the Department of Labor, the federally funded ones. And do you remember that? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he remembers that.
And so we had the Department of Labor director on our show yesterday.
Did you catch that?
And he said
no.
that was a distraction.
I'm telling you, Senator, this is the show you got to listen to if you want to be in the know.
But he said,
right.
yeah, he said that was a distraction. And then we asked him whether or not this was put out to the public. Was there any sort of job announcement that was made?
Nope, wasn't.
No, nothing. And then he said that he had gone through
old applications left over from the transition. When I say transition, we're talking about the transition from Calvo Tenorio to
Leon
Guerrero Tenorio. So they went way back, dusted off a bunch of applications that probably smelled like the cockroach.
Yeah, and then he handpicked the program manager.
But I don't know if the program manager had put in an application. See, we didn't get that answered.
He didn't. He handpicked her. He didn't need an application. He was like.
So he's just like, boom, you were it, girl.
I mean, and she worked there at HRD which is under DOL.
And so the lieutenant governor had said, "Oh, well, we had to get a bunch of people real fast. We needed them yesterday, and that's why."
Yeah, I'm sure with close to 20,000 people now looking for employment, if that job announcement was made, the waiting line will be probably as long as those waiting in line to get free food or a box of food and fruits for their families. And that's the problem. Our transparency doesn't seem to be here. And if they're going to, attitude kind of plays into that as well, unfortunately. And this is...
I got to quote Senator Theresa Lai. She called a couple of weeks ago and she said something like, yeah, and they're giving us attitude, or what was it? Something with attitude. Snarky. They're being too snarky. You're right. And I mean, I don't even know what's the real answer there. Were they handpicked, or are you using year and a half old applications? And why do you still have year and a half old applications?
Unfortunately for us, we had the media that with FOIA, that's what we call transparency,
right,
are able to put this together and let the public know what really happened. And let the public decide.
Right, yeah. Well,
yes.
Well, Senator, we want to thank you for calling in. I guess just real quick on the hate crime bill, because we got Attorney Tom Fisher on. We want to get with to him about the double pay lawsuit. If your bill became law and there was an instance where you had a couple local guys maybe get in a fight with a military guy and they throw the H word, howley or whatever, during the course of that fight, would that altercation be classified as a hate crime if your bill were to become law?
Yeah. So in the final decision on the judgment of that, the attorneys would have to put that case together. I'm sure they would have to dig into it if the person was Facebooking this group or organizations on and do it with threatening remarks, and it's blatant and you can see it, then yes. But I think there's going to be a lot of evidence needed, and then we can definitely see that it would hold up in court, and then prosecution can be made with this for harsher sentencing and fines as well. So it is just to protect those from bias, whether it be race, gender, or even political, how they feel about that. So we don't get into these hard situations, knowing that our laws are strong enough and it's nothing we would tolerate.
Okay, Senator.
Just real quickly, are we having a public hearing or are we having a virtual town hall?
You mean for today's on...
no, I'm talking about your hate crime bill.
Oh, well, I as the...
Maybe you could opt for that no public hearing thing.
Right, right. Yeah, and I can reintroduce it 3 times. No, I won't do that. I definitely want it the quickest way possible. And since we're doing these Zoom conferences and on Facebook Live as well, there's a greater chance of more people seeing it. And then we can have greater participation for now while we're going through this COVID. So whatever opens up first, that's what I'm hoping to get. I'm not going to be picky.
Okay, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wash your hands.
I will do.
All right. 9:38. Let's keep it going and get Attorney Tom Fisher, of course, who is... Hey, good morning, Tom, Chris, and Sabrina.
Good morning, Chris.